Hello, Sean. We're we're live now, a little bit live. So
Mhm.
thank you for coming on the podcast. First and foremost, how are you?
Thank you. No, thanks for having me. I'm doing well. I've been very busy as of lately, but life is good.
Yeah, you were talking about it. You received a lot of texts this week. I can imagine it was a flood of text people trying to reach out and kind of congratulating you for what happened this week.
Yeah, it kind of started with the MVP, and it was amazing the amount of messages, but also the contents of the messages. Everybody was very supportive and telling me how deserving I was, and that was all really really nice. And then a couple days later, I announced my retirement, and again got a bunch of really nice messages and people telling me what a great career I had, and that enjoy retirement. Which and then the next day, yeah, announced that I am the uh, director of sporting operations for the Munich Ravens, and then now it's been like a little bit of a tidal wave, but
Yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah. It's been a lot of people telling you how great you are. I think that's your week.
yeah, a little bit, which is nice
Yeah, yeah.
and a little bit uncomfortable at the same time.
Yeah, yeah, I can imagine it being like a little bit of both, but it's nice probably just knowing that you can play for so long, and we'll talk about the fact that you've played for a long time at a very high level. But it's
Mhm.
also nice getting those messages, personal messages about you probably touching lives or careers or something
Yeah,
like that as well. So it's not
yeah,
just you being a player, but also like off the field and all that. I think.
yeah. I
Yeah.
think I think that was the part that was kind of you know, it's been a really hard 2 weeks. As exciting as the future is, to kind of first of all leave a club that you care so deeply about, but
Yeah.
also really I knew this was going to be my last season. I knew it for a while, but just to finally say it and do it, it's also different, and everything comes to fruition really quickly. But the feedback that I've gotten, not only that people enjoyed me as a player, but the way I played and the way um, I handled myself or handle myself and treat other people, and that's an inspiration for other people, or whatever the case may be. I had so many people thanking me for you know growing or developing the sport in Europe, and particularly Austria, for inspiring them to be a better player, for just entertaining them. You don't think about that. At least I
Yeah.
don't. I don't. I was just playing a sport I loved,
Yeah,
and to get that kind of feedback is yeah,
yeah,
really nice.
yeah. You're usually as an athlete, you're kind of like in a box, like
Yeah,
of what you try to do, but then you rarely really step out of it and really realize what's going on because of what you are doing inside of that mental box. So
yeah.
it's been nice. Talk about that retirement. You said you were thinking about it for a while, or you knew that you were going to do it for a while. Like, was it a tough decision? I can only think so, but yeah.
Well, the 2001 Austrian Bowl was supposed to be my last game. It was.
Okay.
I knew it. It's something my wife and I had talked about quite a bit. Um, Actually, 2020 was supposed to be my last season. Then it gets canceled. So I was
Yeah.
like, okay, well, I have to do 2021 now. And
Yeah.
then, so this is something that's been a long time coming, actually. And, if the Raiders hadn't have gone to the ELF, I would have ended my career last year. So um, I think there just comes a point in time where you just know enough's enough. And especially, when I had my daughter, the window started shrinking very quickly.
Yeah, because I think that kind of puts like some sort of perspective on a couple things that you do because it takes up a lot of time. I can imagine, especially being a quarterback, and you're involved with the organization. Again, we'll talk about that a little bit later. But that takes a lot of time, and I have a 7-month-old here, so I know what that means.
Yes.
Yeah, it was not it was a decision that you knew for a while. You just waited to kind of announce it. Was there a particular reason, just to kind of stay focused on what was to come for the season, or just let it go and we'll see?
Yeah, it's not that nothing you don't want it to be a distraction. You don't want it to be a topic of conversation throughout the whole year. Not that I wasn't transparent about it, but it's not something that you just openly talk about. But if
Yeah,
people asked, I was honest.
yeah,
But nobody really believes you're going to do it until you do it. And
yeah.
but yeah, it wasn't so much trying to keep it under wraps or anything that it was just more so not relevant at the time.
Yeah, you found the best way to go out anyways, being an MVP of, the
Mm,
best league probably, in a
yeah,
you
second
kind of
best maybe. I
second
think
best.
winning winning the championship is
Yeah,
something I
yeah.
really, really desired.
So that was kind of, yeah, and yeah, you were in the semifinals. You lost to the later champions in the Hamburg Sea Devils.
Well, the
I think.
Vienna Vikings won
Oh
it
no,
actually.
yeah, yeah. I
Mm,
was distracted. So that was one of the biggest or the biggest reason why you stay for last year to play in that ELF.
correct.
Um, we in Belgium, we don't really see much of it. It's not really on our TV where I don't know, we've kind of, for some reason, we kind of fall in between. Like, I don't know why it's not more popular in Belgium. But talk about that European football league or of football, because um you're going to be a sports director now for a new team. I think there's going to be 18 franchises next year.
Mhm.
So it's a semi-pro to professional league. So talk about that first, like the level of play, the professionality that comes with all of that, and just about your experience in the ELF.
Mhm. The level of play in comparison to the Austrian Football League was uncomparable. It wasn't that there wasn't lopsided scores. There were, and there wasn't some games that got out of hand or whatever the case may be. But every team that you played against had people you had to worry about, and had really, really good football players. And if you didn't do what you were supposed to do, you didn't handle your business or execute the way you were supposed to, it probably wasn't going to work.
Yeah,
Um, it was just some teams had enough really good football players where even if you executed well, it wouldn't work because they're just that good. Um, but you didn't have that in national leagues. It's impossible to have that much talent, right? So you
yeah,
have to go to international play to garner enough talent, and particularly this sport, but all sports. It's the reason why Champions League is so popular, right? You gather the best talent and you have them play against each other, and that's what the European League of football is trying to accomplish. And I think, in comparison to the national leagues, I think they are accomplishing. And it was really fun to be a part of because every week you had to be on your A game,
yeah.
and if
There's
you weren't,
no
it
way
just
around
wouldn't work.
that.
Huh?
There was no way around that because
No.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But because I think I'm not sure how it works like behind the scenes, but I was talking about the fact that it was semi-pro and professional. So certain players, like import American players, they're getting paid, and they can be professional players, or how would this it work for you? Like for
So yeah, so there's a handful of players in every team that
yeah,
are making the the bulk of their income via football.
yeah,
So last year it was 8.
okay,
And then you have kind of players in between where maybe they're making it, they're full time because they're a student or whatever, and it's a
yeah,
nice student job or whatever. And then the kind of the rest of the roster is making a couple hundred euros or so.
yeah, yeah. But that's
Um,
still you know a lot.
everybody has a contract. Everybody's a
Yeah, yeah,
professional. It,
yeah,
the,
yeah.
the
That's
salary number changes depending on
Yeah, what
experience,
you
but
are. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. Yeah, but it's still a big difference. Like we play in Belgium, like not me personally, because I'm way too small for that. But like, they're not getting paid, anything. So that's a
yeah,
completely different like step up from and being able to, like, because you get paid from it, you also level up your play because you get more time to do things, to look at tape, to to just practice and all that. So I think
Mm,
that's a good thing for European football in general. I think just to
sure.
have that, growing and growing. It seems to keep growing every year. Like in 2021, I think there were 12 franchises, something like that, and it keeps on growing. And I think the commissioner
It
said he
started
wanted
it started with 8.
oh, 8.
2021 was 8. Last year was 12, and next year will be
Yeah,
18.
12, yeah. Yeah, that's and I think the commissioner, Patrick Ozumi, I think he said he wanted to raise it to, like, 24 or something in a couple
Yeah,
of years.
yeah, I'm
So
not sure. I think the ultimate goal is whatever it is, 30, 32, but have,
yeah,
uh, at least every country that cares about American football represented, so it's kind of, outside of Barcelona and Istanbul, it's kind of organically spreading from
yeah, yeah.
Germany. And we'll see what the future holds. It's the most exciting thing going on in American football in Europe since I've been in Europe.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you that because you played in, like, all these different, international leagues, not just in Austria, all these, different types of leagues, the Big 6 and all that. Is this the best iteration, I'd say, of European league type of football?
By far,
Yeah.
by far. And it's not like the Big Six was really good football. Don't get me wrong, but when you structure something like soccer and you play international tournaments outside your national tournament, there's to do it every single week, and these are your opponents every single week, and this is the league you're in and fixed. It brings something different to the table. And then what I think the European League of Football have done better than anything I've ever seen since I've been out here is they've given a platform to the players. All these players are growing their brands, they're getting sponsorships, their social medias are exploding because now they have a platform that they can grow and they're exposed, and the league encourages that and does a great job about that, and that makes it exciting, when it's all over social media. They do a great job with social media, and they
Yeah,
they
they
allow
really do.
the players to be tangible and but also have a brand that people feel like they know them. Um,
Yeah, that's, modern sports nowadays, like,
mm.
it's
The
so much.
fan experience,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
fan
yeah.
experience for an ELF fan and an AFL fan is very, very different. It's far better.
Yeah, I've never been to a game because it's for me, I think it's like a 3.5 hour drive to the closest stadium, so it's kinda have to make a weekend out of it if I really
Yeah.
wanna do it, but I'd love to go because we in Belgium, we have, like, a couple hundred as best, like, if we have a championship game. I was a commentator at the BNL Bowl, which is a Dutch and Belgian league that, combines the 2.
Okay.
And there were a couple hundred people, but, like, for the championship
Yeah.
game, I think there were, like, more than I don't know how many people there were, with thousands of like, I
Yeah,
think
sure. No, what is the closest stadium Dusseldorf or
yeah, I think it's Dusseldorf. I think
yeah, they had a game with
it's close.
12,000 people this
Yeah,
year.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think
Yeah.
that's one of the
It was
reasons why, maybe because of the, having a lot of Dutch people maybe go as well, because I've
supposed
had
to
a
be there.
few Belgians, few friends that went, so maybe, that's part of it, but, even then, like, Germany is so big and or they really have, like, a football culture more than I think
100%.
any other.
I mean,
Yeah.
if you look at the average attendance, a couple of German teams really struggle, but for the most part, it's Austrian German teams that are 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 average
Yeah, yeah,
attendance. And then you had like Rheinfire and Dusseldorf, they had like
yeah,
8,000 average attendance. And
that's
that's
crazy.
that's that's substantial numbers. It
That's
really is.
Yeah, that's bigger than, like, most soccer stadiums in
Mm,
Belgium, like, at the highest level. So that means something of that could, because, like I said before, like, a lot of people here in Belgium don't always necessarily know the league. Like, putting that type of number kind of for the fans that are listening, they know now more about, like, okay, this is a really big thing. Like, there's so many thousands of people in the stands. I want to go back to kind of your career a little bit because
okay.
um we digress, but I love to do that, so I don't care. But I've made this graphic, and you can see it now if it pops up. But, like, all your career stats, like, I'm not gonna read all of them because we're gonna sit here tomorrow. Um, But you've won a lot. You've won every single year, basically, of your career, whether it be personal or as a team. Um, like, talk about that. For does that sink in when you are now retiring? When you make that decision, or is it like it just kind of sits there? Like, do you see that? Do you know all of these, by the way, or remember these?
I think, I mean, I remember them. They're all special. Like, it's not easy to win an MVP. It's not easy to win a championship. Um, so no, you don't forget them because there's a lot that goes into that. But it's not something I think about often. It's not something I cherish. It really don't. Like, this ELF MVP, awesome, really great. You know, it's a great way to end my career. I'm really honored, but it's I wanted to win a championship. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And then at the end of the day, the championships are nice, but ultimately, what I think I'm going to remember the most is just like the bus rides,
yeah.
the locker room, and practicing, and
That's what
um,
everybody says. If
no,
they
no, but
win
it's so
a
true. It's so true. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
I have a you know, a drawer full of rings.
Yeah, they don't
I've
do anything for you.
no, I've won whatever it is, double digit championships. You remember the
Yeah,
people that you did it with, and you know, I always kind of laugh at myself because there's this one ring that we got with the Raiders, and we won. We were undefeated and won four championships in 2019, and it was the best team I've ever played on, and one of the most proud moments in my athletic career. And we got this beautiful all black, beautiful. Never wear it. I don't think about that. And then when I see people wear the rings, like, I should have worn my ring, but
yeah,
it's not something. It's never something that's motivated me, and that's not why I play. I play to win championships. Don't get me wrong, but it's the things that go into winning a championship. It's the things that, like, you did things the right way, you practiced the right way, you
yeah.
communicated the right way, you played together the right way. Those are the things you remember. It's not the championship in itself.
Yeah, you gotta love the process going to
Exactly.
those championships because otherwise you don't get to those
And
championships.
it's so much work. It's really so much
Yeah,
work
yeah,
to get a team of 50 to 60 guys, to really buy in, click, everybody do what they need to do in order to be the best team. You know, obviously in the AFL, but now even more so in the ELF. It's gotta, it's just gotta mean the world for those reasons.
yeah, absolutely. And um, like I said, we talk about those accomplishments.
Mhm.
But I don't think when you were a small kid living in Florida, you could have thought those things like where you are now. Just you live in Tirol. Like, how did your football journey come from being in Florida? I think you grew up in Florida, right? And how did that football journey lead you to the Raiders? That's a long
Um,
story, I know.
yeah, you know, my dream was to always be a professional football player. Like, I always knew what I wanted to do. Um, and so after high school, I didn't get many offers from big time schools. So I ended up going to a small school. I started there for every year I was eligible for 4 years. I had a pretty disappointing career, to be honest.
You
And
were
then it was just
four-time MVP though.
huh?
You were offensive MVP for 4 years though, but I read somewhere or heard somewhere you said you were disappointed with your career, but it's not like you didn't like you felt like you were disappointed by the
Correct,
career you said. Yeah.
correct, correct. I mean, I didn't have a winning record once in my college career. Again, all these individual accolades, super
Yeah.
cool. But you know, when you're the offensive MVP on four unsuccessful teams, it doesn't mean much. Um, and so I remember I threw an interception. My last play of my college career, I threw an interception in overtime to lose the game. And I remember thinking to myself, like, it can't end this way. It can't. It cannot. Um, and I knew I had no shot at the NFL because of the career that I had. So it's like, hey, let's see what Europe has to offer. And then when I got to Europe, I got to Elincourt, Elincourt, France, and
I got the accent.
yeah, I don't know where that came from. Uh, and quickly realized, like, oh, there is some good football out here. There's more now, but then it was like a handful. It was the Big Six, right? It was like, let's go do that, and then one thing led to another.
Yeah, that's a big decision though. Like moving continents to do so. Like, how did you end up in France? Like, did you know someone there, or just you know?
No, no. I made a Euro Players account. I got messaged. I
Okay.
graduated December 2013. I was in France January 2014, knowing no one, not speaking the language. Um,
Goodness.
I didn't contact my parents for the first 3 days I was in France because I had no phone, I had no service. I mean, I had a phone and I could have done Wi-Fi, but I was an idiot then. Uh, like it wasn't as, yeah. Excuse me, but no, I didn't know anybody. I just got on a plane and then figured out a lot about myself.
Yeah, yeah, I can imagine that you learn a lot about yourself more than even like as a player or whatever. Then you're literally just on your own, and you have to figure out for yourself. Like,
Exactly. You just have to figure it out. And the thing that was so cool is I was 22 or 23 at the time, and I was playing with mainly men, like really
mm,
grown ass men, and that didn't speak English. And I was still able to connect with these people. And I still had there was people that I had never spoken a word to, in either them English or me French, that I feel a bond to. And they were all different walks of life, you know, all different ethnicities, different backgrounds, different religious backgrounds, and I was still able to connect with these people and ultimately kind of lead them in a way. And that was a huge confidence booster for me as a person. And I found, yeah, like I said, I grew a lot individually in that
yeah,
experience.
like you said, confidence boost as a person. I think
Yeah,
more than anything
exactly.
else, because that's just anything on more than
I
just.
can, yeah, exactly. If I can do this, I can do a lot of things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You grow
I'll
up
figure
really
it out.
fast. Yeah, you have to grow up really fast on and off the field. So you end up in Finland because of someone you know, I think there, or
It was actually we played the Helsinki Roosters in the semifinal of an EFAF Champions League at the time, and I played really well, but we ended up losing. And then the next week, their quarterback hurt, and they knew my season was over, so they called me.
so then you move to again another country. I think Finnish is even crazier as a language. Like I
Yeah,
know
yeah, yeah. But at
Finnish.
least they speak English.
Yeah, but
No,
this.
so I went home to a friend of mine's wedding.
Mhm.
Didn't even unpack and flew out right after the wedding.
That's a little bit of inside the brain also of an athlete of being like, okay, I need to do this, but also need to do that and get
Mhm.
everything right. Um, did you? I read somewhere when you arrived in Tirol for the Raiders, then that kind of felt like home really quickly for you.
Yes.
You felt at home there quickly because of the people and just the mentality. You come from a completely different background, just in a lot of ways, I think, in Florida. But talk to me about your first days, the experience you have in Tirol, because it's I think you love it. There's no
Yeah.
I think it's in your bio, even like adopted by
Yeah.
Tirol, so you love it there. So just fill us in
Yeah,
from
when
the.
I got there, it was the first time in my life that I felt like a professional. The Roosters is a great organization. Those guys take football very seriously, but they don't have the professionality or like especially the budget or the actual working environment of a Raiders. And the local players here are just crazy. The amount of hours they put into it. They themselves act like they're professionals, even though they're all either working or studying or whatever they're doing. So it was like a really comfortable environment immediately because it was like, okay, I'm in an environment with people who care about football as much as I do, and that clicked immediately. And just the culture and the people also. I don't know. It just worked, right? Like, not that it didn't work with Finnish, and not that I don't love the French. Parisians are, but you know, you always find good people anywhere you are. It just felt homey really quick, and then I think I was here for a month, maybe give or take a week, and ended up meeting my future wife. And so it was just kind of like, okay, this is where I was supposed to be.
Yeah, that'll help in
Meeting
finding.
a girl changes things. It
Yeah,
really
yeah.
did.
Yeah, but it also like it puts probably again a lot of things in perspective, and kind of puts you at ease a little bit more about the rest of the environment. You kind of focus a little bit more maybe on just the football side of things in terms of feeling like you can handle it a little bit more. And you did win a lot of games. You did win a lot in Austria just from I think you won 5 championships. Um,
Yeah, five out of the six Austrian
um,
bowls we played in.
Yeah, so that's amazing.
It's
And
good. It's good.
yeah, yeah. So talking about the league, how is it there? Like the level of play, is it better than what you played in? Because it's supposed to be one of the better leagues, I think, in Europe.
Yeah, I mean, prior to the ELF, it was really, really, really good football, and you know, it's not maybe as physical as the German brand. I think there's very two distinct, different brands of football between the two leagues that, you know, stereotypically have the best leagues. The Austrian league, they put more time into it, and it's really sophisticated style of football for the European game, and the coaching is pretty good as well, and just really intelligent football players. So what Austria lacks in just big brutes that kind of just run downhill. It was a sophisticated game, and I really enjoyed that part of it. Although a bit finesse, but you know, sometimes when I watched games from other teams, or when we had a scout internationally, I was just like, this looks like, you know, little league football, because it's just such basic concepts. Because maybe they practice once or twice a week, and
Yeah.
I know in Austria teams put in 3 or 4 evenings a week, and that's normal, and it shows.
Yeah, yeah, that'll change an offense completely if you can, double up the practices. You can open up your playbook. You're
100%.
involved, yeah. You're involved in, or you were involved, I'd have to say, in the playbook and the offense from day one, or is that something that grows throughout, your career? Or was that something from
From
early?
Yeah, from early on, that was something that Coach Rowland and I discussed about before I came over. It's like, this is something I want to I want to coach, right? I wanted to coach at the time, and so it's like, this is something I want to be involved in. And they were more than accommodating, and I learned a lot in those first years. And then, of course, my role and my influence grew as I grew as a player, and my capabilities grew, and my comfortability with the offense grew, and then I think it all kind of came to a point in 18 and 19 where I put together 2 seasons of really, really good football.
Yeah, and being able to play that, level of football, was that one of the reasons why you said in 2019 maybe this is a good time to
Yeah,
stop, because it's like at the highest level that
exactly.
I can be in? Because
Exactly. At that point, I think I had. Sorry to cut you off. At that point, I had. I think 3 MVPs, and we had won 4 out of 5 Austrian bowls. And it's like, hey, I don't know if I can play better than this.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, it's always
this may be my
it's
peak.
yeah, yeah, that's your peak, because at that point you're like 29, so it's not like you couldn't
Yeah,
have played for like
28, something like that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, 28, 29, something like that. And so yeah, it's not like you couldn't play anymore like physically, but
No.
you also were involved in, like you said, in coaching. You were involved in youth coaching.
Yeah.
Um, like how was that? Is that how important is that to you? Just about l- giving like kind of back to the community, giving back to youth players as well.
Yeah.
Like, how important is that to you?
Really, I actually, to be honest, I studied education and physical education because I thought I wanted to be a high school coach. And I always gravitated towards teenagers, and particularly like 15, 16, 17, 18, um, in their kind of rebellious years.
Yeah, yeah, I
Uh,
was gonna say it's not the most easy years to kind of
no,
mold.
but I don't know. I just click with
Yeah,
a lot of guys in that age in terms of a player coach relationship. Um, and it was always something that I knew I wanted to do. It ended up that I didn't want to be a high school teacher and then coach, but working with kids in that later adolescence years um, was always something I was drawn to. So when I got the chance to at the Raiders, I immediately jumped in the youth, and then that role also expanded rather rapidly as I showed my competence and everything like that. But it's something that was really vital to me at the time, and things I really cherished. And the relationships that I built with some of these players of mine, they're like little brothers to me. Um, and yeah, it'll always be a part of me, even though my career is taking me in a different direction at the moment. It's always something that I think I'll gravitate to it in the future if I can.
yeah, it's one of those things what we talked about before. Like, you can have all the rings, but if you can see one of those guys that you were coaching do good in a game, that's something completely different. Like, that's way more, I think, for you as a coach or just as a human being, that gives you way more satisfaction, I think, at the end of the day, is to see guys succeed if you've been like a part of it, like a
Mm.
part of it, and even the biggest part, or because they have to do it themselves, but that's cool for you, I think.
Yeah, the two youth championships teams that I coach were able to win during my times at the Raiders were some of my best memories, to be honest.
I can imagine that, like, that I read that, you know, that's one of the things that you were proud of, or you said that in the beginning of the podcast as well. Like, you are proud to be part of the growth of the game as well. Like, you tried to kind of elevate the game and try to make it a little bit more known or just popular. How did you think you succeeded in that, in growing it, or
That's a great question. I don't know. Before I had my daughter, I ran a quarterback academy that unfortunately I don't have the time to do anymore. And I would like to think those, at least um, gave some people some tools to improve their game. I worked on the national team coaching staffs. I would like to hope the same, that I was able to work with some quarterbacks and give them a few things that improved. But how influential I have been up until this point.
it's hard to put it in
It's
words?
hard to put in words, but I'm a bad person to ask too, because I just don't see it, because
Yeah,
that's just not my my perspective on
yeah.
things. I don't think about it often, and when people um, at the ELF award ceremony, the players were kind of amongst the fans, and I got stopped by a younger player, an Austrian player, and he kind of stopped me, and he said, he thanked me for everything I've done for Austrian football, and that really is meaningful to me, and I appreciate saying that him saying that a lot, because it's not something that I really consider. I don't sit here at home and go, "Well, I wonder what my legacy is. I wonder what my influence is. I wonder." It's just not something that really crosses your mind. So when somebody like slaps you in the face with it and say, "Hey, because of you, football and wherever football in Europe is in a better place," um, it's one of the biggest compliments I think I can receive.
Yeah, and absolutely, and I can only attest to that. Like, you've been for great for like a long time. How was that? How did you do that? Do you have any advice for players who want to be, reach a consistently high level? Because you did it consistently, like as we showed before. Like, you were successful in every single year that you played in. Like, um, how did what's the reason behind that? Why were you so successful so consistently for so long?
I think the biggest advice in that regard that I can give is if if you find yourself in a good spot, stay there. And because I think continuity is really the key. There's guys that I played, 5, 6, 7 seasons with. Um, Adrian Platzkummer was on the first team that I was as a Raider. He was a teammate of mine for 7 years. That matters.
I see.
Um, I don't know how many I don't know if it's tens of thousands. I don't know how many thousands of balls I've thrown Fabian Alpfalter in my career, between practice and games. And
You don't have to think twice about like a relationship,
no,
if you
and
do it for
and
so long.
and also you build a bond that it just takes time. It just really takes time. So if you find yourself in the spot that you're comfortable and you think you can succeed, try to make the best of it.
Yeah, Tirol was that spot for you.
100%.
Yeah. How did I talked about the fact that I have a kid myself. Like, how did your life change as a human being, but also as an athlete, having your daughter and having it in a country that is completely I won't say foreign at that point because you've been there for a while, but still it's a different country than what you're used to. Like, how was that experience like?
Well, as a person, it changes absolutely everything.
Yeah.
Uh, it changes everything. And so obviously it changes things for you as an athlete. My routines had to completely change. I didn't handle it that well, to be honest. 2001 was maybe one of my worst years in Europe. We ended up being successful and winning a championship, but it wasn't pretty. And I didn't feel good. I felt really bad. My body felt bad. I don't know how many hours of physio I got that year because, my routine was completely thrown off. And, you know, my daughter early on, often had belly aches, stomach pain. It's the only way she would really fall asleep is if you bounced on a medicine ball with her in your arms. And I don't know how many I don't know how many bounces I did over a 6 to 8 month period. And my back was all screwed up from that.
Yeah.
And it's hard to throw a football when it's so
Yeah.
it changes everything. So physically, there was a lot of things that were different, um, because you're just doing different things than you normally would do, like bouncing a baby to sleep. But also, perspective-wise, where you decide to put your time and energy, um, it's everything changes.
Yeah, I can again, I can attest to that whole experience, and I just like to know, like, you've been now. You said you don't really try to reflect a lot about your career, but is there an on the field moment that for you is your best moment or the moment that you think about the most? But mostly when I ask that question, or when people ask that question, they mostly ask about an on field best experience as a player. But I also would like to know if there's an off the field because that's part of it too. Like you said before, like the bus rides, but those things like, is there an on the field like moment that you remember the most?
Off the field's easy. Off the field is every single bus ride we ever had. Like, um, it's the best when you're just sitting there with your teammates and you have literally nothing in the world that you could do
Yeah, there's
other
nothing.
than just enjoy the presence of your teammates. It's the best. I'm gonna really miss that. Um, and just the locker room in general, like I said before, it's just bullshit happens. Sorry.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. We don't have to bleep anything or nothing.
okay, okay. Um, on the field, this wasn't necessarily. It was during a game, but we weren't on the field. We were on the sideline. And this is maybe my favorite moment. I don't think about it often, but like it's a story that I like to tell. When I try to explain how good we were and how good we knew we were, and just the culture that we had built for ourselves. We're in Calanda playing in the CFL CEFL championship in 2019. This was that perfect season, and we should lose that game. And we got lucky with a ref call, and that's the only reason we won. But we were down like 2 scores with like, I don't know, 5 minutes left in the game or something like that, maybe even less. And I remember standing on the sideline and looking at the scoreboard, and then Adrian Potskammer was next to me, and I looked at AP, and I went, "It's going to be crazy when we win this game." And he laughed. He goes, "I know." And then we win, and like in that game, we got the ball back at our own like 8-yard line, and we had a minute to go score, something like that, and we score in 30 seconds. And the touchdown gets called back, and for excessive celebration. And
That's the worst.
yeah, and so then we run the ball one play because we're trying to milk the clock down because we knew we were going to score again, and then we score on the next play. And it's just like, yeah, the I wouldn't say arrogance. It's just the belief we had in each other that's a moment that I'll remember for a long time.
That's the best feeling, I think, as an athlete, that you can kind of go like, I know this is going to go out. This is
Yeah,
going
it's
to go
going bad now, but we're gonna
well.
figure out how to win this.
Yeah. I've interviewed a lot of athletes throughout the years, and that's what they always say. Like, there's this moment, like this peak, and some have it one time, some have it never. But there's this one moment that a lot of these, really, championship type of guys know that they reach this peak, and they know like, okay, it's going to work out. I know, like, there's this sort of, like you said, like some type of arrogance, but not, it's not really arrogance, but like just this confidence in yourself, like, okay, this everything slows down almost, like of your did it feel like the same way, like this is my peak, or not, is just difficult to kind of.
I don't know. As an individual performer, no, but as a team, probably. I
Mm.
think we knew we were on to something special, and something was really special happening in that team, and how we were able to pull some games out, and just how we performed in big moments. Um, yeah, you kind of know you're in the zone as a team, and something special is going on. But as a performance, I actually think my 2018 was better than my 2019, and there is just kind of like that Austrian bowl I put together in 2018 was probably my best game ever. And during the game, I knew that it's just like, okay,
This is gonna
I'm
get any.
on it tonight. This is a good night, and it's going to be really hard for them.
Yeah, that's a fun feeling to have, if you put in all these hours, and like,
Mhm.
okay, this is it right here. As a player, like, how, or as a quarterback, I'd have to say, like, how is your playing style for people that would have never seen you play
Oh,
before? How would you compare, or how would you describe your playing style?
excuse me. It's tough to say. Well, my first 8 years, no, maybe 7 years of my football life, I played fullback.
Yeah.
And I always had a good arm, and the coaches always wanted to put me at quarterback, but in Little League, you don't really throw the ball that much. So I wanted to be a fullback. And so I learned to run the ball like a fullback. And I never really lost that. I never learned how not to do that, really, not in any like adequate way.
You don't run around people, you run through.
No, not my thing. I don't. I've never done it. Never practiced it. Yeah. So I think that's a unique characteristic of a quarterback. I've seen some other guys run the ball in a similar fashion, but I developed as a pocket passer. I could obviously always run the ball if I needed to, but that wasn't my main objective. My main objective every play was to deliver an accurate ball to the open receiver. So I think that's a pretty unique combo. Um, Power running pocket passer.
And staying healthy though for I don't I've never I didn't read a lot about injuries or anything like that. So
I never
although
missed a game.
you never missed a game even as
I didn't
a
miss a game in my European career. I
that's
didn't even think about that. No, I never missed a game.
yeah that,
There
that
was a game I probably should have missed, the 2017 Austrian Bowl, where I didn't throw a ball for 2 weeks and then, you know, tried to manage through a game.
yeah.
Didn't work that well. Probably shouldn't have played that one, but no, I was able to stay, yeah, healthy for the most part.
Is that conditioning or just a little bit of luck as well?
Probably both. You know, a big portion of it is I always played behind an excellent offensive line. And there would be games that I would go literally there's games that I didn't hit the grass. And I stayed on my feet the entire game.
That'll
And then in big games, this fullback mentality more so came out. So I got to pick and choose my spots a lot. Uh, and then the ELF, you can't really pick and choose your spots because even Stuttgart gets after me, right? And I got hit and everything like that. Who was ranked last in the team, but they still have really good football players. Um, and this year was just more like focusing not on peak performance in terms of like strength and explosivity and whatever it's or explosiveness, I should say. Um, I just wanted to feel good, and so that was my focus, and that helped a lot.
Yeah, I want to ask you, like, who was your favorite player to play with? Or do you have like your best teammate? Is there some sort of Hall of Fame that you can think of, or because you talked about like Adrian Platzgummer,
Yeah,
because you played for
he's
him for
one of
so
the
long.
first people.
Yeah,
He's one of the first people that come to mind for sure. Him and I have him, it's him and Mikael Habertin that are guys that I've played. I don't know. I played probably over 100 games as a Raider. I think I was getting close this year, so I'm probably somewhere. And I've played all but like three with Mikael Habertin
that was
and
that's one of
the
the
left
guys on the
tackle.
offensive left tackle.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
And then maybe like all but 15 or 20 without Adrian. And Adrian's a close friend of mine too. So those guys are the ones that come to mind immediately. Adrian's brother, I loved playing with Sandro.
Yeah, I was
Not
gonna
only
ask.
because he's a phenomenal football player, but he's the best person.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's
I
one of a
actually, yeah, I actually sent in a request for the New York Giants to interview him as well, and he texted me back on Instagram, and he wanted to do it, but he had to go through the Giants himself. So I hope to get him on the show as well, but we'll see if that
it'll be a
works
great
out.
interview. He's a unicorn, that's for sure. Uh, and then like guys like Tobias Bonatti. I mean, there's just so many. Dominic Bauer was a great teammate. Sebastian Shaw was a great teammate. You know, I hesitate to keep going because I know I'm going to forget and miss
Yeah,
out on a lot of people. But I've been blessed, and the Raiders are blessed with just phenomenal people. And it was really an honor and a pleasure every single year.
is there a guy that you can remember that you had the most like issues with playing against?
Playing against, well, when you play the same teams over and over and over again in Austria, you develop a nice rivalry with some
Mhm.
like Lucky, who ended up playing on our team, but was a Vienna Viking formerly. We had a fun relationship playing against each other. Thomas Schnorr, Leon Balog. I mean, the best players that you play against, you oftentimes have respect for, and it becomes a healthy competition. This year was Kyle Kitchens
Yeah,
for the ELF, who's an absolute menace to society. Um, so
defensive
it's
court.
those guys. Everybody wants to play the best football possible, and you need the best football players to play against to play the best football possible.
Yeah, because that
And
elevates your level. You can't just play, if you
no,
play down, it doesn't elevate you, so it doesn't.
doesn't work. So So there was always a special relationship between, some of the best defensive players that I played against. Yeah.
Um, Going to the future, you're now going to be sports director at Munich Ravens, who's like
Mhm.
one of the new franchises. First of all, how did that come about? You being uh, in that function, in that
Yeah. The GM who was hired was a longtime Raider, and we known each other for years.
okay,
And when he got the opportunity to be a GM, yeah, he called me and said, "Hey, is this something you would be interested in?" And like I said earlier, I've always wanted to be a coach. I always thought that was going to be the path. But in my time in Europe, I think um, what a lot of organizations, from what I've heard of, and what a lot of players tell me, is that maybe the player experience isn't focused on as much as it probably should be, and the sports management side of American football in Europe could really has the most room to grow, I think, in my opinion. And so that the last 3-4 years at the Raiders, I've been kind of gravitating towards more of those roles, player personnel roles, and management roles. And so this is basically the exact job that I've been gravitating towards, and it was a very exciting opportunity.
something that came a little bit natural throughout the years that kind of puts you in this position now. It's going to be a big move from your beloved Tirol to Munich. How did that will practically family have to move probably or
No, actually, in 2021, my wife, daughter, and I moved to her hometown, which is a town named St. in Tirol. And so I've been commuting to Innsbruck for this
okay,
past year.
okay,
And it's the same commute to Munich.
okay. It's not that extremely far. I thought it was not that good in in geographic stuff. But yeah, yeah. If it's it kind of puts you in a different type of role. Are you going to be involved in coaching then as well? That's not going to be part of your because I saw someone commenting on your Instagram page like he better stay healthy because if the starting quarterback goes down, like that's not going to be any part of the plans. you
No,
you yeah, yeah, vehemently no.
no, I won't. I won't be a coach. There's so much to do behind the
Yeah,
scenes.
probably. Yeah.
Uh, Now that the ELF exists, that you have to be solely focused on these roles, and coaching just wouldn't be an option in the immediate future, and nor should it be. Coaches should be focused on coaching, and administration should be focused on the administrative side. So I'm very excited to learn this side of the of professional football because, in my opinion, it's more important than the other side at the moment in Europe.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that I like to take out of that is the fact that you said like it's important to do the coaching thing and for the coaches, and it's important to do the management side for everybody else involved. But in a lot of franchises, clubs, or whatever you can call them, teams, whatever, it's a lot of the times like the coaches they do have to do management things and have to organize certain things, and it's they have to do so many different things. So the fact that you can be like, okay, it's just me doing that side of the football, or not really side of the football but the football thing, kind of puts it professionally as well, like way more professional than in a lot of other organizations.
Absolutely.
I want to go back, or not really go back, because it's a quote I picked up somewhere. It's one of your you had a quote that you kind of taken along with you. I don't know if you know the quote yourself. You've said it in an interview somewhere a long time ago. I think it was 2017, but I saw it
Mhm.
somewhere. So I'm just gonna read it to you because you
Sure.
said it was an important quote to you. You said people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. You know the quote now, I assume. But talk to me about that quote, why it was important to you, and
It's a quote that my defensive coordinator in high school. I was his teacher's assistant because again I wanted to study education and physical education, and one of my tasks was to read this book, and it was a book by Jim Tressel, famous college football coach in the states, and that was a quote that he kind of lived by, or one of them, and uh, and yeah, I think it's something that resonated me and kind of shaped my leadership style, and how I deal with people in general. Because it's 100% true. You can know everything in the world, but if people don't think you care about them, they're not going to listen to you.
Yeah.
And that's just human nature. And to be empathetic and to be warm and to be caring, um, particularly at the quarterback position, is vital to overall success, in my opinion. And honestly, it's completely applicable to my new job as well. I'm in a leadership position, but it's a servant leadership position, and my job is to make other people better at their jobs. And that was my job as a quarterback too. And so I think it's just a really, really natural fit. And that quote is a big part of my personal philosophy.
Yeah, because it's also part of that thing you said before about consistency. Like, if you don't treat people right, you're not going to be able to be consistent at the same place. Like you talked before, like if you don't treat people right, you're
Yeah,
not going to keep, putting up with that, and it's not going to even care like how good you play. You can't stay there because of other reasons. You have to um, treat people right in any position, like anywhere or whatever. But like as a quarterback, I think that's even more because then you have to be a leader even more um, than in any position in football. I think.
absolutely. And it's not this like, hey, I'm going to tell a bunch of people what to do leadership style, which could work at quarterback too. But it's bringing people together to see a common goal and work towards it together. And that's the beautiful thing about sports. And again, it's a very, very similar role to what I what I have with the Ravens.
Yeah. I want to talk to you because obviously we are an NFL podcast. We talk about the NFL, American football, and I love to do these interviews every once in a while. We talked to Jacob Johnson. Who's
Mhm.
a fullback for the Raiders. He was a part of the international pathway program. Sandro was as well. But we were talking a little bit of everything. But I would love to talk to you a little bit of NFL. You
Sure.
talked about the fact that you are kind of like a fullback playing, not really fullback playing quarterback, but you know what I mean. Like, is there a player that um, you like the most in the NFL, like as a quarterback or as a player, just in general?
Well,
Um, Players.
um, I love the way Josh Allen plays the game. I think the influx of young quarterbacks in the league
It's yeah,
in the last 4 to 5 years has just been phenomenal, and it's changed the game, and it's made it so much more fun to watch than these Kirk Cousins of the world. Um, and Kirk Cousins is a professional quarterback, and he's
made a lot of
completely,
money.
yeah, completely, and deservedly so.
Yeah, yeah.
For lack of playoff success, but you know the guy's a professional quarterback, and professional quarterbacks earn a lot of money. But he's not. His playing style is kind of old school. It's not particularly flashy, right? Not that it has to be, but you know, I love the way these young quarterbacks play the game, and they kind of are evolving the game as we speak. And not that one, like I see myself in one of them, but all of them are extremely between Mahomes, Jackson,
Yeah.
Allen, Herbert. These guys are changing the sport.
Yeah, we talk about, growth of the game, helping it, helping the NFL be more popular in Europe. That's part of it too. Like if you have those
It's got
flashy
to be more
tactics.
exciting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. If you have a Josh Allen and you have a Patrick Mahomes playing like they did in the conference championship, like
Mhm.
that's just an advertisement for the NFL and for football in
Exactly.
general. So
Exactly.
um is there like you know, a favorite quarterback as well? Is that's Josh Allen your favorite quarterback for the NFL? Do you have a favorite team? Because you played,
I'm from Tampa Bay, Florida,
yeah,
but I was born and went to college in Kansas City,
and
Missouri. So I would have to pick them as my teams, although fantasy football has kind of ruined that fandom.
you're one of
Uh,
those. Yeah.
and favorite quarterback? Not particularly. If I had to pick one, I'd probably pick Aaron Rodgers because he's just been so good for so long, and I really admire that. But they're all so much fun to watch in their own way. Even a guy like Kyler Murray, and it's not just these mobile quarterbacks either. Justin Herbert just delivers balls from the pocket, just does it in such a convincing, confident way that it's a lot of fun to watch. So no, I don't. Whoever my favorite is, favorite team, favorite player, whatever, is just directly associated with my fantasy teams.
Okay. I have two questions left. They're mostly traditional questions that I like to ask to people. The first one is, do you have any advice? I kind of asked it a little bit before. Do you have any advice for young players who want to step into this game, and want to grow their game, want to grow the way they play the game? Do you have any advice for them?
Yeah, find a situation that you know you can cultivate in and work your ass off. Like find the resources and then work your ass off. And sometimes in my career, I've been in places where I haven't had enough resources, and it doesn't matter how hard you work. Um, so get yourself in a good spot and then work hard.
And then my second question is, what can I wish for you in the upcoming weeks, months, years? What can I wish? What what can I wish for you?
What can you wish for me?
I don't. The problem is, I was thinking in my head, like I can't really, I don't know how to translate it well. But what I usually ask is, um, what when will you be have to translate it now a little bit so it's not the
Yeah.
same. The message is a little bit different. But when will you be, or what can I wish for you that when you will be happy um in the next coming months? Like what things are going to be, or what will make you happy in the upcoming weeks? I'd have to say.
Um,
Hard
I'm gonna
to-
be happy the entire. No, I understand your question. I'm gonna be happy the entire time in the traditional sense of the word happy,
yeah.
um, because I'm doing something I love.
Mhm.
But in terms of like happy, in terms of satisfied and kind of can relax a little bit, and that's a great question because starting a program from scratch is not the easiest thing in the world, and it takes a lot of work. And I think when the Ravens we've built the roster and everything's set up in terms of facilities, then maybe the sprint is over, and then maybe we can start jogging a little bit. But I think in these types of jobs, there's just always stuff to do. There's always work to be done, and you just kind of plug along and keep grinding.
Yeah, and then you can start running the marathon. That
Yeah. Well, and
basically.
then because then season comes, and then it's
Yeah,
a whole new race, right? It's like getting things set up. It might be like, oh, okay, and then it's like everything else, and so I think it's going to make things a lot more gratifying when we are successful, though. When it's like, hey, I
yeah.
didn't
When you
just
put
have
the
to
work
walk
in.
the field and be a good football player. I had to do something more than that, actually.
Yeah, I can imagine. That's a great way to end the show for me is to see how you want to see your future. So I have to thank you first and foremost just to be
Of
on the
course.
show in this busy week. I can imagine texting everything back, texting everyone back, and all that. And just congratulations on your retirement. Congratulations on you being part of the Munich Ravens and being part of the growth of the game in Europe. So I want to thank you for that, and congratulate you for that. Like you know, uh, I want to thank the fans also because I think people listen to the show, and I know it's always fun to talk to people. So I just remembered that when talking about the fans, I had two fan questions,
Okay, shoot.
and I kind of remember the first one, but I have to go back and look for the second one. The first fan question I have was, I think it was from Kevin, but I'm not sure. He asked if you could trade your whole career as a European player and trade that for 1 year or as a starter in the NFL, would you do it?
Um, Financially, I think that
Yeah.
would make sense. But in terms of like experience, that would be a crazy experience. But again, I really, back to everything else. I cherish longevity. I cherish sustainability. I cherish continuity, and like the relationships and the memories and everything that you build through years and years and years. There's just certain thing about time that is so valuable. If you don't have that time together in a program or in a, you can only be so influential. You can only build such strong relationships. Well, that's a great question, though. That'd be very, very enticing, because that's everybody's dream, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Would you
And
trade over 100 games for 16? Excuse me.
somebody's calling you, I think. I have a second question, and that's part of, or it's from Michel Eben, and he's part of the Limburg Shotgun. So he's part of, also, in management involved there. I don't know. I think he's a president, might be, whatever. He's part of,
Sorry about that. I don't know who that is.
um, and he's asking, what's the best thing European clubs can do to keep growing the game?
Get into schools. It's the best way. Get into schools. Teach young people the sport. Um, if a club's not doing that, then you're 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 just inhibiting your future success, in my opinion. And it takes resources, and it takes people, and it takes cooperation from the local school system, the schools or whatever. But teach young people the sport,
That's
because if everybody can throw a football, I mean, throwing a football makes such a big difference. If you can meet up with your friends and throw a football, because most people can't, most Europeans can't,
no, no.
and
You
like
see,
it's such like an essential thing.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Teach them that.
Yeah, it's something that Americans just kind of are so used to doing from the earliest age that they can throw it, and for us, it's sometimes we're 20 in our 20s or before we even touch a football
I
for
have
the first
teammates that can't throw football. Makes no sense.
that makes no sense actually. No, but again, thank you. We had the fan questions. I almost forgot about them, so it's good that I wanted to thank the fans and almost forgot them. So they're back. So thank you for joining the show. And just wishing you luck, and might see each other again. Who knows if anything goes well in Munich? We might talk again. So
Sure, sure. Thanks for having me.
okay, bye.